Hi, guys. Welcome to the Liz Wheeler Show. I'm Liz Wheeler. Well, we have a lot to talk about today. President Trump has formally announced his candidacy for president of the United States for 2024. I don't know about you, but it kind of seems far off. Like there's a little bit of a disconnect to me from right now, since it's just 1 week after the midterms, to the next presidential election. But I want to break down today exactly what this means. Also, I don't know if you guys saw this, but do you get the Trump emails? Are you on his list? Yesterday, right before he started speaking, they sent out an email, or this was like an hour or two before his speech. They sent out an email and they said they were fundraising off of, the headline was the biggest speech or the most significant speech in American history. And it absolutely cracked me up. It was worth watching. We did a live stream watch party on Locals, watching the whole speech. It was like, what, an hour and 6-7 minutes? And it was worth watching. It was pretty interesting start to finish. There were some criticisms from the left about Trump's energy level. And I actually have thoughts about that. I have a little insider tip on that I think most people are completely ignoring. We're going to talk about that. I also want to talk about what one of my biggest concerns is. Not with Trump specifically, not with Trump the man, not with Trump the politician, not with Trump the president, but with our election system. I feel somewhat cynical about the system itself and how it's been electioneered by the Democrats. And I want to talk about how this plays into the next 2 years between now and the presidential election in 2024. Also, who would pay $1 million to see a Trump-Biden debate matchup once again? Do you think that Biden will run again? Who do you think the Democrats are going to run against Trump in 2024? I also want to talk a little bit about what issues the Trump campaign should focus on. We have this divide right now between issues that are really, really important, critical to the success of our nation, versus issues that land with politically independent or maybe politically unaware people. And so the Trump campaign needs to be very nuanced about how they toe this line. So I want to talk about the 3 best things that he said in his announcement speech. Also, will there be any primary challengers to Trump? Will DeSantis run? Will Ted Cruz run? Will Nikki Haley run? Will Marco Rubio run? Will, I don't know, maybe Mike Pence run? Will Liz Cheney run? Will anybody challenge Trump, or will they treat him with the deference of an incumbent? And if they don't, who exactly will be his challenger? Also, who might be his vice presidential running mate? Will he announce this person early on? Will he do this campaign for the next 2 years solo until the last few months? We're going to talk about that and just kind of discuss my thoughts and concerns on this whole thing, because 2 years is a very, very long time. A lot can happen, and it's actually our responsibility to make sure that a lot does happen in the next 2 years. So let's get to it. Okay, I like Nutrafol because it's natural and it works. That is a win-win combination for me. You know, I'm kind of a crunchy person. Well, you know that about me, and I know about you that half people watching my show are balding men. Well, there's no shame in that, but there is a holistic solution for you, for men, that promotes both healthier hair and whole body wellness without drugs or prescriptions. It's called Nutrafol. Nutrafol is clinically shown to improve hair growth, thickness, and visible scalp coverage without compromise. And guys, we know what I mean when I say without compromise. A lot of these hair growth supplements negatively impact your sex drive. Not so with Nutrafol. Nutrafol is made of 21 potent natural ingredients that actually support sex drive, supports better sleep, and less stress too. In a clinical study, men showed progressive improvement in hair growth and thickness after 3 and 6 months. You can grow healthier, thicker hair, and you can support our show at the same time. Win-win by going to Nutrafol.com and entering my promo code Liz. If you use my promo code, you can save $15 off your first month subscription. This is their best offer anywhere. It's only available to U.S. customers for a limited time. Plus, you get free shipping on every order. That's $15 off at Nutrafol.com. Spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code Liz. Okay, also guys, if you haven't subscribed to my show, go ahead and do that on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Click subscribe on YouTube, on Rumble. Click subscribe and click the bell over there so that I can notify you every time we have new content, a video, an interview, an episode, a hot take, a live stream, whatever we're doing. Greatly appreciate it. Okay, so President Trump formally announced his candidacy for president of the United States for 2024. He took his sweet time getting to the actual announcement. He made us all wait, 15 minutes almost into his speech before he announced, but he finally did it.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States. Thank you, kids. Thank you.
Okay, so it was that shot. Did you see the cameras panning away? It was that shot, kind of majestic looking in this great fancy ballroom in Mar-a-Lago. That's the reason that he announced at Mar-a-Lago. But I have to say, this is where I have a little bit of a different opinion than you might be reading on Twitter. You might be hearing from your favorite pundit right now. The Democrats' main criticism during this speech and directly after was that it was low energy. It's actually funny. They were accusing Trump of being old, as they literally have President Vegetable in the White House, which I found to be funny. However, it wasn't low energy because of any problem with Trump. It was a little more staid or a little less enthusiastic on both the crowd side and Trump's side because of the venue. This is something that's easy to see working on this side of the camera as I do. The venue plays a huge role in how an audience reacts. If they're packed together, if they're sitting, if they're standing, if they feel in control of their environment, if they feel reverent in their environment. A venue is really, really important to how any kind of show goes. This is a sort of show. This is a production, right? What this speech that President Trump did. And based on the energy of your audience, you moderate your energy to them. You don't want to have a situation where you feel like you're overly exciting and yelling and your audience is like, whoa, what's the deal with this guy? Or vice versa. You don't want to be low energy when your audience is high energy. Well, where was this venue? This venue was a very formal, fancy ballroom. There were chairs everywhere for people to sit in. This was not like come in your work clothes, come as you are, to a big stadium outside the airport where we're all going to be yelling anyway so that we can be heard over the sound of the jet engines. This didn't have the chaos and the gritty atmosphere of a campaign rally, which is also why it didn't translate into feeling that energy that you would feel at a campaign rally. So, of course, the Democrats don't care about any nuance, but I thought you guys would want to know because, production is what I do for a living. This kind of stuff is easy to see when you work in production, and that's all it was. So not the greatest choice from a production standpoint to announce at Mar-a-Lago, but I understand that he was going for that big pan shot looking so majestic. So that's my 2 cents on that. I'm sure the Democrats are super interested in properly and objectively analyzing why Trump's tone was the way it was and why people's responses were the way their responses were. Also, there are some people who are asking, people who are Trump supporters, people who are Republicans, conservatives, saying, okay, but why did Trump announce yesterday? Why did he announce in this speech last night? Why didn't he wait until after the runoff in Georgia? Why not put all this focus on Herschel Walker to help Herschel be elected to the Senate versus making the focus about Trump now? And here's the answer to why. Just an hour before Trump went on stage, you can see this on the screen. This is his filing with the FEC, his formal recognition of his organization to run for president. This is his legal declaration that he is an active presidential candidate, an active candidate for public office. You have to file this with the Federal Election Commission by, with these forms. You can see all this governmental mumbo jumbo. And this, I think, is a critical part of the decision of why to announce now, because historically in our country, this is not a rule, but this is a norm, meaning a tradition that people respect and defer to. The norm is that the other side, in this case, it would be the Biden administration, would not indict their political opposition, would not indict an active candidate for office. So the norm would be that a Democrat president would not indict a Republican challenger to his office. Because why? Well, obviously, that smacks of political corruption, that smacks of political targeting. This could be why Trump announced this so early. The problem is, of course, is the Democrats have no interest in adhering to any kind of norms. They don't care about tradition. They don't care about morality. They don't care about appearing to be above using the power of the federal government to target their political enemy. The Biden administration will indict Trump. It's only a matter of time. I predicted that this would happen after the midterm elections because they didn't want Republicans and independents to be galvanized in Trump's favor the way that the Mar-a-Lago raid galvanized Republicans in behind Trump. I predicted that this would be after the midterms, and I still think that it will be. In fact, Andrew Weissman tweeted tonight. You might recognize that name. Andrew Weissman was part of the Mueller probe, the FBI, the targeting of President Trump with Russia collusion. This is what Andrew Weissman tweeted. Running for office is not a quote-unquote get-out-of-jail-free card. There were multiple active state and federal investigations into Trump before he said he would run for president. His declaration has nothing to do with the validity of those investigations and any resulting charges. He tweeted this at 9:43 p.m. Last night, literally during the speech. So we already know that whether or not President Trump based some of his timing on the fact that he's maybe hoping the Democrats would adhere to these norms, they're not going to. They're still going to indict him. But that could be possibly why. Overall, his speech was very good. His speech was a proper contrast between what he accomplished as president and how he would accomplish more of the same if he were to be reelected with what President Biden has done to our country. You know, he talked about our nation's comeback. He talked about how he presided over the greatest economy in the history of the world, that everybody was thriving, no matter what your age, no matter what your sex, male or female, no matter what your socioeconomic status, no matter what your race, no matter what your religion, any of these things, people in our country were thriving like never before. And that's a really good place to begin. That's a good baseline to say, okay, this is what I gave you. Now what is the other side giving you? And, you know, he talked about our nation being respected. We had a free nation, a strong nation. And then he contrasted this with the Biden administration over the last 2 years. He said, we're a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. He said this Biden era has been a time of pain, hardship, anxiety, and despair. And he pointed to inflation, to rising gas prices, to the border crisis, to fentanyl. Very valid, very pertinent, very effective comparisons. I really liked the bone structure, the skeleton of Trump's speech. I think that if that's a message that he's going to use over the next 2 years, it's a very, very good one. And it will be a very effective one. On that note, I have 3 pre-existing concerns with President Trump as a presidential candidate for 2024. We've talked about these before. They are not without remedy, but they are concerns that need to be addressed. The first concern is the people that he surrounds himself with. Historically, during his first administration and then after his first administration, he has surrounded himself largely with suck-ups, morons, and deep staters. I don't like that. That's a major liability. Most of the problems that the Trump administration had was due to the suck-ups, the morons, and the deep staters that he surrounded himself with. That has to change. And he has to understand and verbalize that he learned his lesson with how to pick people. Because otherwise, why would that change? And then why would the next administration be different? My second concern is Trump's inability to drain the swamp during his first term in office. I understand that it's not as easy as one president simply, flipping that bathtub drain and all these swamp creatures getting sucked back into oblivion. It's not that easy because there are civil service protections, but 4 years, Trump did not issue any kind of executive order on this until January of 2021. Weeks before he left office, he finally tried to use his executive power to eliminate these civil service protections so that deep staters who were actively subverting the administration they work for could be fired. That I find very problematic. And then the third concern that I have is President Trump's 4th year. What he did with COVID. He's responsible for elevating Fauci. He's responsible for the COVID vaccine. He did not take a stand against mask mandates. He did not take a stand against lockdowns. And he has made no indication. He has not said anything like, oh, I learned my lesson. Oh, I regret this. Oh, Fauci's corrupt. Big Pharma's corrupt. The lockdowns were anti-American. Masks are bullshit. Nothing of that nature. Although, to be fair, tonight was a pretty good start. This is. I'm going to interrupt myself in this litany of concerns because this is one of my favorite things. This is one of the top 3 things that President Trump said in his speech tonight about vaccine mandates for military members.
I did. And in the first day, they put it back. They signed an executive order and they put it back. It was gone. We will abolish every Biden COVID mandate and rehire every patriot who was fired from our military with an apology and full back pay.
Okay, so I have thoughts on this, and I have thoughts on the 3 concerns about Trump that I just listed. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But first, I want to talk about Cozy Earth. Let me ask you this. How did you sleep last night after this speech of Trump's? If you answered this question, well, not so great, or just okay, or please don't ask, well, you're not alone. Maybe politics is bothering you, but 1 out of 3 Americans report being sleep deprived, and your bed sheets could be part of the problem, which might be an easier problem to solve than politics. It's why I like Cozy Earth sheets. The wrong sheets can trap body heat, leaving you boiling 1 minute and freezing the next. It's absolutely the worst in the wintertime. The solution is Cozy Earth sheets. They're the softest, most luxurious, and best temperature regulating sheets on the planet. It feels like sleeping on a cloud, which makes sense because they're made from bamboo, which allows Cozy Earth sheets to breathe so that you can sleep at the perfect temperature all year round. And trust me, I know what I'm talking about. I have Cozy Earth sheets on my bed at my house right now. I love them. I know that you will love them too. And if you're not completely in love, you can just send it back for a full refund. And I got a good deal for you. You can now save 35% on Cozy Earth bamboo bedding, 35%. Just go to cozyearth.com/Liz35. You have to hurry. This offer ends soon. That's cozyearth.com/LIZ35. cozyearth.com/Liz35. Okay, so first of all, that clip of President Trump saying that he would reinstate military members and other government employees who were fired from their positions because they refused to take the COVID-19 mRNA shot, that he would not only reinstate them, but give them full back pay. I like that. I love that, actually. That is the way to fight back against the radical left. There should be no COVID amnesty, like Professor Emily Oster suggested. Absolutely not. You don't let your opposition, your political enemy, off the hook when they have tried to gouge your heart out. No pun intended with the COVID jab. Of course you don't. Love that about President Trump. He's not afraid to fight. But these 3 concerns that I have with him, these are not without remedy, right? These are things that should be relatively easy to address. And they are 3 things that I have not only thought a great deal about, but I have spoken to conservatives in politics, in office, in the media industry, in activism, and voters across the country who feel the same way. These are 3 things that President Trump would do well to address in the eyes of his base, because the remedies to these are not only important, they're easily attainable, but they're critical for galvanizing the support that he wants and he needs for his presidential run in 2024. However, here's where my cynicism, I need to let my cynicism flag fly here for a second. One of the thoughts that was dominating my mind as I was watching this speech, and I shared this with you guys on Locals as we were live streaming, I feel this incredible cynicism about whether any Republican candidates can win the presidency. Whether it was Trump, whether it is Trump, whether DeSantis, Cruz, whoever it may be, I don't know if any Republican can win. We can win public opinion. It's not that the Republican Party platform is bad. It's not that it's unpopular. It's not even that we're poor at communicating it. If we learned anything in the midterm elections, it's that, 73, even CNN was reporting that exit poll that said 73% of voters expressed anger or dissatisfaction with how President Biden has done in his first 2 years in office. We successfully turned public opinion against critical race theory and queer theory and in support of parental rights and school choice. Our party platform is popular. And we can present it to voters in a way that even allows and invites Democrat voters to vote for Republicans based on those issues. And if we don't do that, then can a Republican candidate win no matter how good they are? I don't know. The question is also, will there be any primary challengers to President Trump, or will he be treated with the deference that comes with being the incumbent? We're going to talk about that in a second. But first, I want to talk to you about a new app that I've been using that I think you'll love. It's called Upside. We're all cringing when we fill up our gas tank. We're all getting just terrible grocery bills because inflation is hitting us all where it hurts, which is everywhere, everything that we try to buy. And that's why I started using Upside. Upside is an incredible app for everyone. If you buy gas, if you buy groceries, if you dine out, if you are spending money, it is for you. Because with every purchase, I'm actually earning cash back thanks to Upside. And I promise it sounds too good to be true, but it's not too good to be true. I've used it and it works. This is how to get started. Download the free Upside app. It is free. Then use my promo code Liz5 and you can get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Here's how it works. You just claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. You check in at the business, you pay as usual with a credit or debit card, and then you get paid by Upside. In comparison to credit card rewards programs or loyalty programs, you can earn 3 times more cash back with Upside. Upside users are earning more than $1 million a week. So get started. Join me. Download the free Upside app and use promo code Liz5 to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more using promo code Liz. But first, you have to download the free Upside app. Will there be anybody who dares to challenge President Trump? He's made it pretty clear that he doesn't want anybody to run against him in the Republican primary for 2024. What's the answer to this? Is there going to be a challenger? Here's how I would answer this. I always have to give context for my answer. I would say, as of today, no. No serious ones, at least. I expect, Evan McMullin or Liz Cheney or somebody who's just a joke. Sure, there'll be those kind of challengers. Nobody that requires a primary debate, most likely. As of today, I say no serious challengers to President Trump running for president. Now, so I'm talking DeSantis, I'm talking Cruz, I'm talking Nikki Haley, I'm talking Marco Rubio, I'm talking Mike Pence, I'm talking anybody else any of the sort of perennial candidates who have run in the past and may want to run again in the future. Now, this could change. We're 2 years out from this presidential election, almost a year out from when candidates would typically announce. They would typically announce in the summer, perhaps, of the year before. So could something happen between now and a year from now that would prompt one of these more serious candidates to challenge Trump? Sure, that's possible. But my guess would be, at this point, at this moment, all other things notwithstanding, no serious challengers to President Trump. I think he will be treated with the deference of the incumbent. And in answer to so many questions, yes, I have seen the polls showing DeSantis being more popular than President Trump among certain parts of the Republican electorate. Yes, I have heard the Republican senator say that DeSantis is the leader of the Republican Party now. Yes, I have heard President Trump's insults about DeSantis. Yes, I have read Trump's tweets picking on DeSantis, and I have something to say about this. What I have to say about this is I don't care. I have no interest in getting involved in that drama because that's what it is. It is drama. No interest in getting involved except to say that it's not particularly helpful to our overall cause. I certainly understand what President Trump is doing. He is defending what he considers to be his territory. He thinks of himself as the incumbent. No, he's not entitled to the presidency again, but he thinks of himself as the incumbent, so he's defending his sphere. I also understand that people whose votes he needs to count on are off-put by in-party fighting. I would probably take that into consideration if I were him in how he defends his position. Or if you don't want to be diplomatic about it, don't destroy people fighting our fight in our party. We have leftists and rhinos and deep staters, and why target the good guys? That's my take on that. I don't think it factors heavily into this speech from last night. But the larger point about the Trump versus DeSantis drama that the mainstream media is generally trying to gin up, Trump, of course, took part a little bit in that, is Trump would not have to worry about being treated with the respect or the deference of the incumbent if people weren't worried about his chances at winning. And I don't think that this is a commentary on Trump himself or Trump's capability of being a candidate or Trump's capability of being president. This is this just brings us back to election integrity. If people weren't worried about whether any Republican could win, they wouldn't be susceptible to the left trying to incite infighting in our party to destroy us and divide us even more. And I forgot someone, by the way, someone else in Republican leadership who should lose her job after the midterm elections. That's RNC Chair Ronna Romney McDaniels. This woman has presided over repeated Republican losses. It should be the RNC's job to conduct these investigations and to finance them. They are in charge of election procedure, election apparatuses, supporting states. But what has she done? Nothing. The Republican Party, the GOP, has to be single-mindedly focused on unraveling corruption. And I know that all of these, there are so many Republicans that are like, listen, Trump was treated unfairly in office. Russia collusion was a hoax that was unfair. He shouldn't have been impeached, but we have to move past that. We can't live in the past. We can't relitigate this. Voters don't want to hear about this stuff anymore. We have to just, let bygones be bygones and focus on the future. And let me tell you, if we do that, we will never win another presidential election. We have to be single-mindedly focused on unraveling the corruption that underpinned the Russia collusion hoax. The Obama administration, the Department of Justice, the FBI all took part in that. The Ukraine impeachment hoax, Fauci, the NIH, Big Pharma, COVID, January 6th, the Whitmer Fed-napping, the FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago, the FBI's infiltration of every right-wing group that opposes the Biden administration. Any Republican candidate, any Republican politician, any Republican official who doesn't understand the reality of the political enemy that we are facing is incapable of properly calibrating their actions to make sure that our systems remain free, so that our country can remain free, so that our families are free. There's one other aspect of the midterm elections that plays into President Trump's announcement, and that is we have to, over the course of the next 2 years, and President Trump has actually done this better than almost anyone else. He did this in 2016 better than maybe any modern politician, going all the way back to perhaps FDR. We have to reintroduce the Republican Party and the label Republican, the associations that people automatically feel when they hear Republican. We have to reintroduce this Republican label to voters on their own terms. It's a rebranding, if you will. I know that is a trite term used in politics a lot, but we overestimate, as Republicans, we do this. We overestimate how difficult it is for people who historically voted Democrat and who have been indoctrinated for literally decades, indoctrinated into this narrative that Republicans are evil, how difficult it is for those people to simply look and say, okay, my gas, it's more expensive to fill up my gas tank, my groceries are costing more, my paycheck is shrinking. I guess I'll just vote Republican out of my own interest. That's actually not a very realistic scenario. There are not very many people who can do that, who can simply put their preconceived biases aside and vote based on just one issue and which politician is promising to address that issue in the smartest way. That is not how a lot of people are able to operate. Probably most of us are unable to operate like that. And we have to meet these voters on their term. We have to introduce ourselves again. What is the Republican Party? Who are Republicans? How does the Republican Party meet your needs where you are? Not just talking about, there are a lot of voters, honestly, who don't care about the Constitution, who don't care about the founding, who don't care about limited government and low spend and being fiscally responsible. Not that any Republican cares about that these days, but I digress. A lot of voters don't care about that stuff, and we try to convince them to vote for us based on our terms versus meeting them on their terms, and it's a huge mistake. What we need to do is we need to go up to them and introduce ourselves and say, hi, I'm a Republican, and then give them permission to vote Republican. Say, it's okay for you to change your mind. Parties change. People change. If you're for school choice, so are we. If you as a parent want to be involved in your children's educational decisions, so do we. If you want to run a small business and you don't want government telling you that you have to force your employees to be vaccinated, we agree with you. We will stand with you. We are your champion. And say, maybe you voted Democrat before, and that's okay. But it's also okay to vote Republican based on the fact that people change and parties change. And by the way, I said before, Trump actually did this better than almost anyone else. He spoke in 2015 and 2016 to the white working class voter, and he successfully did exactly that. He said, hey, I'm a new brand of Republican. I'm here to fight for you because I understand your problems and your terms. And let me tell you how I'm going to go about fixing that. So what do I do if I'm Trump? If I'm Trump for the next 2 years, I think very carefully about what I want my campaign to be focused on, to be centered on. What do I want the thesis of my campaign to be? This is what I would do if I'm Trump. I would make parents the focus of the campaign. I would speak to them on their terms about the problems they face and promise to be their champion. If I'm Trump, I'd disavow the vaccine. This is going to be the hardest one for him to do. I would champion those who were harmed by the vaccine. If you can galvanize the support of the people harmed either at their workplace, meaning they've lost their jobs, or physically harmed by the vaccine, you have galvanized an incredible base of people in our country. If I'm Trump, I disavow the lockdowns and Fauci. If I'm Trump, I show exactly as chief executive, if I'm in the Oval Office again, how do I drain the swamp? How will I do this? Because he promised to do it the last time and he didn't succeed in doing that. Show us how you're going to do it this time. Talk about reforming big pharma and how that's going to be done. Talk about reforming big tech and how that's going to be done. And do not bend a knee on abortion. I know that the narrative from the left right now is that abortion lost the midterms. That's a false narrative. It's how the Democrats successfully branded abortion as being contraception and ectopic pregnancy and rape. And Republicans didn't fight back. They bent a knee before the midterms on abortion. And that's why the Democrats, pretending that abortion is not abortion, galvanized single women to vote for the Democratic Party in the name of abortion. If I'm Trump, I spend the next 2 years exposing the Democrats' corruption, destroy the powerful Democrats who are at the core of this corruption, at the core of this rigged system. If I'm Trump, I show in a simple way, an elementary way, a compelling way, how his policies help voters with the things that they're struggling with in their life. All I could think of towards the end of Trump's speech was, what did we learn from the student loan debt trick that Biden just pulled in the midterms? He promised people that he'd erase their student loan debt. He knew that this was illegal. He had no authority to do this, but it didn't matter because people drew that correlation. Oh, I better vote for Biden because then I won't have this $30,000 bill to pay back. They voted for him, and then a court overturned it and said he's not allowed to do that. And it shows that people will draw this correlation between something that impacts their life and their vote if they are shown that correlation. If I'm Trump, I fight the culture wars hard because the culture wars matter, and that's the most important thing, but also because look at the number of GOP voters in the midterms. I know we lost key races, but look at the map of the United States. It's mostly red after the midterms. The culture war, the way that we are waging the fight in the culture war is working. Whether it's critical race theory, whether it's school choice, whether it's queer theory, it is working because people agree with us. And stand against the globalists, the ones who want to harm us, the World Health Organization, the UN, the World Economic Forum, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Show their level of cronyism, how they're in bed with these corrupt Democrats. Expose that. Nobody likes that on the right or the left. This is what I would do if I'm Trump. This is how I define my campaign in a way that galvanizes support on the Republican side and makes it very difficult for swing voters and independent voters to vote against him simply because he is Trump. I mean, this is what I will say. 2 years is a very long time. It's a lot happens in 2 years, and it's our responsibility to make sure that a lot happens in 2 years. But right now, it's time to buckle up. It's time to fight this fight. And it's time to make sure that our fighter understands the political enemy, the reality of the political enemy that we face, so that he can fight the fight well in a way that allows us to win. And my friends, it's our jobs, your job and my job, to hold him accountable to that. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'm Liz Wheeler. This is The Liz Wheeler Show. If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button below, and ring the bell to make sure you never miss a video.